This is ATN Global News. First, the headlines. Fubara reviews state funds before, after emergency rule. Wike State Education Mandate, Secretary IRS Acting Chairman. Reps move to scrutinize Nigeria's foreign treaties agreement. CBN revokes licenses of 2 mortgage banks. South Africa expels 7 Kenyans over undocumented work. FIFA announces $60 World Cup tickets after pricing backlash. Khan condemns Iniedo's theme, a very dirty Christmas. Welcome back. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has disclosed that he found 600 billion naira in the state's coffers upon returning from suspension, contrasting with the over 300 billion naira he left before the emergency rule was imposed. This comes as the Speaker of the State House of Assembly raised concerns over financial management during the period of the emergency rule, prompting calls for clarity on the state's account. Governor Fubara emphasized that all financial records were intact and properly documented, assuring the public that every kobo is accounted for. He further promised that evidence supporting the figures will be made available within the next 6 months. The governor maintained that he has conducted himself with sincerity and transparency, insisting that he is not linked to any misappropriation or irregularities in the state's finances.
Today, I want to also say to the whole world, when we left during the emergency rule, our records are there. We left over 300 and something billion. When we came back, we met about 600 and something. Every penny that we're spending, the record is there. And evidence of it will be shown within now and the next 6 months. So there is no issue on what are we doing with our money, what are we doing with the money they make. At least nobody can take away my sincerity, my genuineness. I am not associated to anything that has to do with fraudulent acts. If there is one thing I can say.
Rivers State government has expressed condolences to Bayelsa State over the death of its Deputy Governor, Senator Lawrence Ero-Jagbo. In a statement on Wednesday, December 17, 2025, Rivers State Governor Sasimin Alayi Fubara said the sad news has plunged both states and the wider Niger Delta into mourning. Governor Fubara described the late Ero-Jagbo as a committed public servant, a stabilizing force in the Bayelsa administration, and a strong advocate of development. He sympathized with Bayelsa State Governor, Senator Doye, the family of the deceased, and the people of the state, praying for the repose of the late Deputy Governor's soul and strength for those he left behind. Pro-Chancellor and Chairman Governing Board at the Ignatius Ajuru University of Education, Rumolumele Port Harcourt, has identified with the good people of Rebisi Kingdom and the activities of the 2025 Rebisi Cultural Festival. ATN News completes this report.
Pro-Chancellor and Chairman Governing Board at the Ignatius Ajuru University of Education, Rumolumele Port Harcourt, Dr. Chinyere Igwe, has identified with the good people of Rebisi Kingdom and the activities of the cultural festival in the area. Dr. Chinyere Igwe also seek royal blessings and solicit for continued support, growth and development of Ignatius Ajuru University of Education in Port Harcourt. The Pro-Chancellor stated this on Wednesday, December 17, 2025, when he led his management team, including the acting Vice-Chancellor of the institution, Professor Okechukwu Onuchukwu, and a visit to His Royal Majesty, Eze Barrister Udechukwu Isaiah Iluku, at the Palace of the Rivers State Council of Traditional Rulers.
So, Majesty, we have come here this morning to inform you that a council has been constituted. 2, that this council is part of you because we are in your domain. 3, to seek for a royal blessing. And urge the people of Rebisi Port Harcourt to please support this university. St. John's is one of the premier academic institutions in Rivers State.
In his response, His Royal Majesty Eze Barrister Iluku, the Eze Abara Rebisi, thanked the university management and council members for the visit and their unwavering support. He assured that Rebisi Kingdom will continue to maintain a strong and harmonious relationship with the institution.
Thanking everybody who is here for coming at this moment. I want to specifically recognize the Pro-Chancellor and my professional colleague. I will leave all the other ones that you left out. But my professional colleague, Chief Dr. Right Honorable Sachin, the Vice Chancellor who also deliberately omitted the distinguished honors. Those of you sitting on this side, if you got the photograph, you look at them, you see me and 2 other majesties and my chairman at the time. It's on that day that he was also giving his investiture. But we all received the investiture the same day as distinguished service stars of Rivers State. I will recognize the Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Okechukwu Onuchukwu, distinguished service star of Rivers State, and all other members of the governing council, particularly again, my colleague on the other side who my one on suit.
Yes,
As a sign of goodwill and partnership, the Royal Majesty presented a cow, 20 tubers of yam, and 2 pieces of George wrappers to the Pro-Chancellor and his team, reaffirming the Kingdom's commitment to supporting the university. On his part, the acting Vice-Chancellor, Professor Okechukwu Onichukwu, while appreciating the Royal Father for the warm reception and gifts, appealed for sustained royal support, particularly towards the renovation and upgrading of facilities across the university campuses.
I want to thank you very much and your Council of Chief for this. It is not easy to do this because ordinarily we came here for a courtesy call to see you and also tell you that we want to enter the campus that is in your territory to go and do stock taking so that council will know this is where we are and then see how improvement can be made, through the River State government. But when getting here, this is what I say. We can't thank you enough. I'm sure that every one of us here.
The Pro-Chancellor also led his management team on a facility tour at the Ignatius Adjunct University of Education, Rumolumeni. Areas inspected includes the Entrepreneurship Department, IAUE Library, ICT, Computer Training and Certification Center, Ideation and Innovation Hub, and the Lecture Hall Complex for the Business School. Speaking after the facility tour, Dr. Igwe commended the head of campus for his dedication and resilience in the face of challenges. He also thanked the host community for its cooperation and pledged to champion positive change aimed at addressing the concerns of both the communities and the institution.
Our landlord has expressed his ambition over some actions that have been taken by the university that also in the not too recent past. What I would say is that the government is a continuum. We will inherit the liability and assets of the first government council. We cannot throw what they have done away. Particularly noting the fact that there is no perfection in human endeavor. They are taking the actions based on mistakes which to our landlord of St. John's are not palatable. Some actions too, some people are jollificating over the actions. Not everybody cannot be on the same page. The 5 figures are not equal. I would therefore say that because government is a continuum, there will be more and better opportunities tomorrow. Let us maintain the status quo. Let us maintain the synergy. Let us maintain the relationship.
I am Alawuru Praise, ATN News Port Harcourt.
Abia State government has assured members of the Abia State Tricycle Operators Union that the introduction of electric buses in the state will complement, not replace, their operations. The Commissioner for Transport, Dr. Chimezie Okegbu, gave the assurance on Tuesday during the 2025 Astopu Reward and Empowerment Ceremony in Abua, stressing that tricycle operators remain an important part of the state's transport system. He urged operators to prioritize security, avoid alcohol while working, and assured them of continued government support. The Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Transportation, Dr. Obioma Nwogbe, praised Astopu for its cooperation with the current administration, particularly in revenue generation, noting that the union stands to benefit further from government interventions beyond infrastructure. Security agencies, including the police and the Federal Road Safety Corps, commended Astopu for its collaboration, which is said has improved road safety and reduced traffic accidents in Aba. Astopu Chairman, Comrade Victor Azubike, said the event honored 164 operators who returned items forgotten by passengers, describing the act as a demonstration of honesty and trust. The operators were rewarded with bags of rice, while awards were also presented to key stakeholders who supported the union. Magistrate Court sitting in Owerri has convicted 3 persons, Ikechukwu Wosu, Ogechi Osuji, and Edwin Ihenato, for indiscriminate disposal of waste at the Hadel Orji district in Owerri. The court found the defendants guilty of violating the existing waste management and sanitation regulations within the district. During the proceedings, all three defendants pleaded guilty to the charges brought against them following due legal processes as stipulated under the Eastern Waste Management Corporation Law Number 2 of 2025 and other relevant sanitation laws governing waste disposal in the state. Consequently, the defendants were convicted and sentenced by the court to 3 months imprisonment or a fine of 50,000 naira each as ordered by the magistrate. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde has dismissed the speculation that he may defect to the All Progressives Congress, asserting that he has no intention of joining the ruling party. Makinde made remarks on Wednesday in Abuja during a public launch of Headlines and Sound Bites Media Moment that defined an administration, a book by former Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed. He emphasized that Nigeria's progress depends on sincere collaboration among leaders across political divides rather than personal ambitions. The governor noted that deepening national divisions are driven by political elites manipulating citizens along religious, ethnic, and regional lines. While most Nigerians seek unity and peaceful coexistence, he warned against a winner-takes-all approach in politics, which fosters exclusion and weakens national cohesion, and called for consensus among leaders to prioritize good governance and address contemporary challenges. Makinde reflected on his own political journey, highlighting the importance of divine timing and learning from setbacks, citing his experience and that of former President Muhammadu Buhari. He stressed that today's challenges require fresh solutions and urged the establishment of political and governance systems that promote fairness, inclusion, and stability. Bauchi State Police Command has announced the resumption of enforcing laws regulating the use of tinted glass on vehicles across the state. The command disclosed this in a statement issued on Wednesday by its Police Public Relations Officer Nafiu Habib, noting that the decision was in line with directives from the Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun. Habib emphasized that, explained that the move followed the review of prevalent security concerns and the need to enhance public safety in the state. He clarified that the command under the leadership of the Commissioner of Police Sani Omolori Aliyu was not restrained by any court order from enforcing the law regulating the use of tinted glass. According to him, enforcement had earlier been suspended to allow motorists sufficient time to regularize their documentation. The spokesperson quoted the Commissioner of Police as assuring residents that the exercise would be conducted professionally and in line with the rule of law. The police urged motorists to cooperate with officers to ensure the smooth implementation of the directive aimed at strengthening security across the state. The decision to resume enforcement on January 2, 2026 is rooted in a broader national and regional security strategy. In Bauchi State, security agencies have recently been on high alert due to a surge in specialized crimes, including mass kidnappings of students and vehicle-related thefts. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has reinstated the Mandate Secretary for Education, Dr. Danlami Hayo, and acting Executive Chairman of the FCT Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Michael Ango. This was made known in a statement on Wednesday by the Senior Special Assistant to the Minister of Public Communication and Social Media, Lere Olayinka. The minister who warned that acts of indiscipline will not be tolerated among officials of the FCTA directed Dr. Danlami Hayo and Michael Ango to resume duty with immediate effect. Niger State House of Assembly has kicked off the screening of ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, on their 2026 budget estimates, focusing on both current and capital expenditures. Deputy Speaker Afiniki Eunice Dawda, who chairs the Women Affairs and Humanitarian Affairs Committee, called on heads of MDA to fully cooperate with House standing committees for a smooth and timely budget review. This, Dawda said, will enable the executive to implement the 2026 appropriation law without delay. According to her, cooperation is necessary to ensure a smooth, speedy and timely consideration of the budget, which will in turn enable the executive arm of government to commence early implementation of the 2026 appropriation once passed into law. She emphasized accountability, transparency and realistic budgeting aligned with Governor Babatunde Adeleke's new Niger agenda, aimed at boosting socio-economic growth and welfare. That would also assure the chief executives of the MDAs that the House committees would discharge their responsibilities diligently and work in synergy with other arms of government to consolidate ongoing developmental efforts across the state. So far, 8 MDAs have appeared before committees, with the process continuing. The Deputy Speaker further noted that the Assembly prioritizes a people-focused budget for sustainable development and better service delivery. We are watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. Nigerian Senate on Wednesday rejected a motion by FCT Senator Ireti Kingibe aimed at addressing present governance issues in Abuja. Senator Kingibe, invoking Senate Orders 41 and 51, highlighted the worsening waste management crisis, ongoing demolitions by the FCTA on paid salaries and delayed payments of contractors, land allocation disputes, and the depletion of University of Abuja land. However, Senate President Godswill Akpabio ruled the motion ineligible as a matter of urgent national importance, noting it bundled too many issues and deferred from prior discussions with the senator. He urged her to withdraw it and file a substantive motion focused solely on waste management.
Troubled that sewage systems across the FCT have been blocked and overflowing for nearly 8 months, with accumulated waste and untreated emissions now reaching catastrophic levels, constituting a clear and present danger of epidemics, environmental contamination, and large-scale public health disaster. Aware that the continued failure to clear sewage and waste exposes residents to cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and other waterborne and sanitation-related diseases, and represent an unconscionable breach of the government's duty of care to citizens. Alarmed that in several instances, even where land disputes are subject to ongoing litigation, the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory has allegedly proceeded with demolitions, revocations, and reallocations in flagrant disregard of subsisting court processes, thereby eroding the rule of law, contemptuously disregarding judicial authority, and violating the Land Use Act and other extant laws.
Motions that tend to, they don't focus on the subject matter. Please, I think you may need to have private discussions with some senators. Because if you are having a matter of urgent national importance on waste management or waste disposal, you stick to it. You focus on it. That is our rule. But when you are asking us to go into payment of salaries, payment of wages, allowances, then waste management, then you will go into demolition of property, you go into land management, you go into this. This minister has a president. The president will direct the minister on activities, and yes, he will be getting approvals from the president from time to time. I think this is too much. This is no longer. Will you describe this as matter of urgent national importance? Please speak on what speak on what this paper is all about. You may wish to withdraw your motion.
Senate Chief Whip Senator Tahe Monguno and Kogi West Senator Sunday Karimi echoed the rejection, with Karimi accusing the motion of being brought in deceit. Other senators stressing its failed procedural rules.
President, having initially called for investigation of the matter based on the principle of audi alteram partem, but after listening carefully to the remarks of the President of the Senate, to the extent that he is not fully briefed of the content of the motion, I still rely on Order 41 to say that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It is bad, and it is incurably bad. Therefore, Mr. President, I urge my sister, Senator Eriti Kingibe, to withdraw that motion because it is in flagrant violations of our rules. And there is nothing to discuss before the Senate based on our rules, because you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to start. It is bad and it is incurably. The operative word here is incurably bad, and therefore it cannot proceed.
Matters like this, as raised by the distinguished Senator Ireti Kinjibe, are matters that should come under substantive motion on our order paper. There should be motions on notice. And to the extent that she had discussed with the Senate President, and the Senate President
she discussed with the Senate President about waste management.
Not
about
waste
lack
management.
Of, yes, not land allocation.
Okay.
Not payment of salaries.
So definitely, in that words, I want to say that the manner of presentation of the motion itself will go to show that it's in violation of our rule, or it's not consistent with our practice and procedure.
Despite differing views, the Senate agreed that urgent steps are needed to address the waste management challenges in the FCT to prevent a potential public health crisis. Federal government has said it is seeking to strengthen Nigeria's conflict prevention framework through improved early warning and response systems amid persistent security challenges across the country and the wider African region. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Toga, stated this in Abuja on Wednesday while addressing an engagement session on the strengthening and capacity building of the National Early Warning Response Group. He was represented at the event by the spokesperson for the ministry, Kimiabi Ebienfa. In his address, Toga said the engagement session was organized by the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution in collaboration with Strengthening Peace and Resilience in Nigeria, a project supported by the British Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. The minister said the partnership was aimed at improving collaboration among members of the National Early Warning Response Group and building a more effective early warning and early response system. Toga noted that countries around the world continue to face violent conflict and insecurity, including political instability, banditry, terrorism, violent extremism, and transnational organized crime. He said climate change and the spread of small arms and light weapons had worsened insecurity, particularly in the Sahel region. Members of the Nigerian Labour Congress assembled at the NLC Secretariat Labour House, Abuja, on Wednesday for a nationwide protest against rising insecurity and worsening economic conditions across the country. President Bola Tinubu met with NLC leadership on Tuesday night in a bid to avert the protest, but Ajero told newsmen there was no resolution to stop it. According to newsmen, those present included NLC President Joe Ajero and civil society allies such as Omoyele Sowore and colleagues from the Revolution Now movement. Also in Lagos, the protesters gathered at the Ikeja carrying placards and chanting slogans demanding urgent action to curb violent crimes and kidnappings. The demonstration first announced after the NLC's National Executive Council meeting on December 4, 2025, response to a wide range of national crises. The NEC expressed concern over escalating insecurity, including the abduction of 24 schoolgirls in Kebbi State on November 17, during which 2 staff members were killed. The union condemned the withdrawal of security personnel prior to the attack and called for urgent government intervention. The protest also addresses broader labor grievances, including unresolved agreements with the federal government, rising cost of living, and impact of insecurity on workers' productivity, safety, and livelihood. The NLC highlighted the deaths of numerous members, teachers, farmers, miners, and other artisans amid escalating insecurity and government inaction. Former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi has ruled out serving as vice president to any presidential candidate in the 2027 general elections. Amechi made the declaration amid speculation that he would emerge as a running mate to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is expected to seek the presidential ticket of the African Democratic Congress. Speaking at an event in Abuja, the former Rivers State governor said he has no intention of deputizing anyone, insisting that he is more suited to contesting for the presidency himself. Amechi argued that the challenge with the office of Vice President in Nigeria is structural, describing it as subordinate and largely dependent on the disposition of the president. He said the position often lacks real authority, which could lead to conflict. He added that he would rather serve as a minister than accept the role of vice president, noting that such an arrangement could easily result in friction rather than effective governance. And now to some business news. As federal government is set to launch a 1.23 trillion naira power sector bond as part of a 4 trillion naira debt program aimed at restoring liquidity, stabilizing the electricity market, and rebuilding investor confidence. Finance Minister Wale Edun disclosed this at an investor forum, noting that the bond is backed by a sovereign guarantee and has attracted strong interest from pension funds, banks, and asset managers. The initiative also aims to reduce the government's 6 trillion naira debts to power generation companies, with about 50% of the liability on the negotiation for forfeiture. The bond meets global best practices, qualifies for CBN liquidity status, and is exempted from PENCOM regulations, making it accessible to pension fund investment. Edun described it as a market-based solution to resolve legacy debts in the Nigerian electricity supply industry and promote a more efficient, self-sustaining power market. Special Advisor on Energy Olu Verhegen called the program a key step in broader sector reforms, while NBET acting MD Johnson Akinnawo described it as a strategic reset rather than a bailout, highlighting the sovereign guarantee as a driver for long-term growth and opportunities. Transmission Company of Nigeria says over 100 ongoing power projects nationwide have been delayed due to lack of funding, right-of-way issues, vandalism, and other challenges. The company disclosed it needs over 2 trillion naira to complete the project. TCN Managing Director Engineer Sule Ahmed Abdulaziz told the House ad hoc committee investigating Nigeria's power sector that TCN receives less than 2 billion naira in its budgets despite billions already invested. Unlike roads, power projects cannot function until fully completed. He added that right-of-way issues, demands for 3 trillion naira in ground rent and compensations on paid debts from discos exceeding 450 billion naira, and insecurity including vandalism and sabotage have further delayed projects.
The projects in the power sectors are not projects that can be done with small amount of money, especially that 60% of these projects are done with equipment from offshore, which means those equipments have to be procured with hard currency or simply with USD. The money we are generating from the market, which I have mentioned last time, we are not receiving the whole invoices. As of today, as I have mentioned, we have a debt of over 450 billion. And still the discos are not paying our invoices 100%. They pay only part of it. Then the government is also subsidizing part of the cost. That also we are not getting from the government. Then before some years back, when it comes to the federal budget, we used to get substantial amount to do projects all over the country. Now for the last 3 to 4 years, what TCN is getting in the budget is not more than 2 billion naira. And out of that 2 billion naira, like last year, only 150 million was released.
In response, Committee Chairman Honorable Ibrahim Al-Mustafa Ali said the committee will assess power projects firsthand to make informed recommendations for stabilizing the sector.
We embark on the physical assessment of some of these projects. Some of the projects we'll see. But of course, we will go with them to visit the generating companies and some of the discourse projects in January. We can decide maybe if we are to take them earlier, maybe before the commencement of the physical assessment as a technical session. We can also, maybe by way of easing engagement, appoint a technical committee of 5 with them so that we can engage them more effectively.
Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission will investigate Aliko Dangote's allegations of corruption against Ahmed Farouk, Managing Director of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Dangote submitted a petition accusing Farouk of embezzling over 7 million to fund his children's education in Switzerland and diverting public funds for personal gain. The ICPC confirmed receipt of the petition and promised a thorough investigation. The ICPC emphasized that if a prima facie case is established, it is empowered to prosecute offenders with penalties including up to 5 years imprisonment without an option of fine. The Commission urged all parties to cooperate fully to ensure transparency and uphold public trust. The Commission also stressed that the investigation aims to reinforce accountability in public office and protect the integrity of Nigeria's petroleum sector, signaling that no individual is above the law. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has summoned both parties, urging them to avoid public comment, warning that the feud could undermine progress in the downstream petroleum sector. Central Bank of Nigeria has revoked the operating licenses of 2 mortgage banks as part of efforts to strengthen the mortgage subsector and enforce compliance with regulations. In a circular issued Tuesday and signed by AG Director of Corporate Communications, Hakama Ali, the CBN has cited 8 authority under Section 12 of BOFIA 2020 and Section 7.3 of the revised guidelines for mortgage banks in Nigeria. The affected institutions are ASOS Savings and Loans PLC and Union Home Savings and Loans PLC. The CBN noted that both banks violated several provisions, including failing to meet the minimum paid-up share capital, having insufficient access to cover liabilities, being critically undercapitalized with a capital adequacy ratio below the prudential minimum, and disregarding directives issued by the central bank. The Apex Bank reaffirmed its commitment to maintaining financial system stability while repositioning the mortgage sub-sector. You are still watching the news on Atlantic Television Network. Up next is International Tidbits. South African authorities have arrested and will expel 7 Kenyans accused of working without proper documentation on the U.S. government's program to resettle white Afrikaners as refugees. The program, initiated in May by the Trump administration, offered refugee status to the minority white Afrikaner community, which the South African government denies faces discrimination or persecution. Reports indicate that Kenyans from a Christian NGO were engaged to fast-track applications for resettlement under the scheme. During a raid on an application processing center in Johannesburg, the 7 Kenyans were found working on tourist visas in violation of entry conditions. They were arrested, issued deportation orders, and barred from re-entering South Africa for 5 years. No U.S. officials or prospective refugees were affected. The raid followed intelligence reports that several Kenyan nationals had entered South Africa on tourist visas to assist with the processing Afrikaner refugee applications. Around 50 Afrikaners were flown to the United States in May, with others following in smaller numbers. Relations between Washington and Pretoria have been tense since Trump took office, marked by trade tariffs, ambassadorial expulsions, and disputes over South African policies. The U.S. departments condemned the interference and is seeking clarification from South African authorities. Venezuela has condemned the United States over Donald Trump's announcement of a blockade targeting sanctioned oil tankers arriving in and departing from the country, warning that the move could severely damage its already struggling economy. In a statement, the government of President Nicolas Maduro described the plan as irrational and accused Washington of attempting to seize Venezuela's national resources through the proposed naval action. Trump earlier announced the blockade of what he termed sanctioned oil vessels traveling to and fro Venezuela, a decision that marks a significant escalation in the U.S. pressure campaign against Caracas. The move is also tied to renewed U.S. demands for access to Venezuela's crude oil. The announcement comes amid an expanded U.S. military presence in the Caribbean, officially framed as part of efforts to combat drug trafficking in Latin America, but increasingly focused on Venezuela. And here now is ATN Sports News. World Cup organizers have introduced a new cut price tickets category for the 2026 tournament following widespread backlash over high prices. FIFA announced its limited supporter entry ticket price at $60 for all 1 and 4 matches, including the final. The tickets reserved for fans of qualified teams will make up 10% each of each national federation's allocation and are aimed at supporting traveling supporters. However, fan groups of football supporters in Europe criticized the move as insufficient, arguing that prices remain far higher than previous tournaments. The group said only a small number of fans would benefit from the cheaper tickets, while most supporters would still face what it described as extortionate costs. Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer also urged FIFA to do more to make tickets affordable, warning that the World Cup risks losing touch with genuine fans. FIFA said the announcement comes amid huge global demand with about 20 million ticket requests already submitted, adding that funds for finance whose teams are eliminated will have administrative fees waived. The first round of ticket draws is scheduled for January 13. At least 5 teams have secured places in the Copa del Rey round of 16 following the conclusion of Tuesday's round of 32 fixtures. The teams that advancing so far are Barcelona, Deportivo Elche, Real Sociedad, and Valencia. Barcelona defeated CD Guadalajara 2-0 at the Pedro Escatin Stadium to move into the next stage. Despite showing determination throughout the match, Guadalajara fell to 2 second-half goals from Andreas Christensen and Marcus Rashford, handing the La Liga champions victory on the road. More round of 32 fixtures are scheduled for today, with the winner set to join the 5 already qualified teams in the round of 16. Nationwide League One has announced players' registration guidelines ahead of the upcoming season. The league body has urged clubs to remit a registration fee of 600,000 naira to its account in order to gain access to the NLO's database. The modalities are for clubs in the NLO Division 1 and the Under-19 Youth League. For the Youth League club, submission of players' primary school certificates is required. The deadline for Division 1 club registration is set for Friday, 27 February 2026. The NLO board, in collaboration with its secretariat, stated this on Tuesday. According to the statement, the proactive move highlights the league body's commitment to ensuring that preparations for the 2026 league are moving forward seamlessly. The new season is set to kickstart on Friday, 10 April. And now, entertainment news. Christian Association of Nigeria has criticized the newly released Nollywood film A Very Dirty Christmas, calling its title offensive to the Christian faith and urging regulatory review. CAN President Archbishop Daniel Oko stressed that Christmas is the sacred season commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ, symbolizing purity, peace, love, and redemption. He said that linking Christmas with the word dirty diminishes its spiritual meaning and reduces the celebration to something crude and sensational. While acknowledging creative freedom in filmmaking, CAN called on the National Film and Video Censors Board to explain how the title was approved, particularly during the Christmas season. The association also urged Nollywood stakeholders, including the Actors Guild of Nigeria, to take a stand on using religious themes sensitively. CAN appeal to the film's producer Iniedo to show sensitivity and address the concerns raised, warning that trivializing sacred values aims amid societal challenges could deepen divisions and weaken mutual respect. A Very Dirty Christmas, produced by Iniedo and directed by R.K. Mycin, was released in cinemas nationwide on December 16, 2025. The film centers on a Christmas family reunion that turns chaotic as unresolved secrets and past traumas resurface, turning what should have been a festive celebration, into emotional turmoil. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go and look at the major stories. Fubara reviews state funds before after emergency rule. Wike reinstates Education Mandate Secretary IRS Acting Chairman. Reps move to scrutinize Nigeria's foreign treaties agreement. CBN revokes licenses of 2 mortgage banks. South Africa expels 7 Kenyans over undocumented work. FIFA announces $60 World Cup tickets after pricing backlash. CAN condemns Iniedo's theme, A Very Dirty Christmas. I am favor. Chikwesri Michael. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter now X at Atlantic TV Net, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. And don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. To have a wonderful night's rest.